Hey, welcome back to Turntable Guy. On the bench today, we have Pioneer. I believe it's an ES-2000. Yes, ES-2000. These are pretty nice tables. They have the AC motor. It's a belt drive. This one has come in because the owner says it's running slow, which is pretty common when you don't have a correct belt. Now, he said he bought a belt for it, and you can see the belt is just under here. These AC motors are not adjustable. They spin based on line frequency, so it's just going to spin at one speed, and the way that the speed is changed is this lever will physically flip the belt down to a larger notch on the pulley, and then pull it back up for 33, and that's how it changes speed. So let's see what kind of speed we're getting on this. I'm just going to grab my speed strobe. Speed check disc. Plug her in. Oh, this is terrible. It's like this. Oh, it's better now. Oh, he's saying it's slow. I've got it as yeah, it is slow. This is a terrible check disc. Yeah, it's slow. Okay, so semi-automatic. So these, you put it over the record and then what? What the hell? Just gonna let it go through the auto return here. I think we got another bad Microswitch. There we go. Okay. So we got a faulty Microswitch. We got slow speed. This one needs a full service. These tables are actually really nice to service. I enjoy working on AC motors. To remove your platter, you need to just take your belt off the motor pulley, pull up. The belt stays attached to the platter. Okay. Wow, the spindle is beautiful. So it's not a spindle issue. That's very lubricated. I wonder if it's been serviced in the past. Put our cover back on. And we will remove our head shell. This has a very crooked cartridge. We'll tighten those up for them. And we shall flip. You'll see these have very nice build quality. It's all wood. The bottom is cardboard, pressed cardboard, which I don't like, but it's not a very heavy turntable. this will be our first video where we're actually going to service a large AC motor. So pretty much every table I've worked on so far, except for that very strange Taya, has been a DC motor. Okay, as you can see, there's very, very little to this. Motor, basically your AC comes in, AC goes out to the motor. Here's your auto return mechanism. This is an area that could probably be repaired here. There's a tiny little sponge there that pushes the arm back, and as you can see, it's turned to dust. So what we'll do, we're just going to cut that off with a razor blade. And we'll replace that with a new piece of foam or styrofoam or something. It won't auto return without it. There's our Microswitch there, and it looks like I just want to move the arm because it just did seem like I think we're going to clean that Microswitch, because if there's not a physical problem with it being pushed in. So let's give that a cleaning first. Grab your contact cleaner. There goes my sump pump. We're just going to spray that, flood it. It's almost exactly the same as that NEC I worked on. Switch is almost identical. So you just want it to flow in. You don't want to spray it because it's going to shoot you right in the face. Just flow it in, and then let gravity do the rest. Work your Microswitch. Okay, and then put her back. Tighten it down. So there's definitely no problem with the arm pushing the lever to contact the Microswitch. No problem. So that's good. Okay. This is our bearing. We'll probably service it anyway. We'll put some fresh oil in there. What the hell? But let's do our motor first. Okay. I'm just checking the rubber mount for it. Looks good. Okay, here's your motor. There's quite a bit of belt goo on the spindle. We're going to clean that off with a little bit of, oh, that's really bad, a little bit of alcohol to start with. And motor's in really nice condition. There's a date on this motor, the 3rd of October 1975, right there. Wow. And, you know, it still amazes me that stuff from that age still works perfectly, you know. Anyway, just put it down here. We're just going to loosen these two screws. Sometimes there's a nut. There's a nut up here. And you're going to have to hold it as you're unscrewing. This one's got two nuts actually. There's one on the bottom and one on the top. So hopefully you can see this. Loosen that one. I think this is just holding this plate on. We still have to take it off to get access to the top nut. And yes, I left my socket set outside. So we're going to have to do it the getaway here. A pair of needle nose. Getting there. Lock washer. Second one here. You'd never get the screw off in the bottom if you haven't removed these nuts. But that's the fun of working on an AC motor. There we go. Take off our lock washer. Alright. And that just sits, we'll just sit it there for now. Now, here's our other two nuts that we have to remove. And you can see here, it's got a marking here, stamping for oil. And it probably has, yes it does, it probably has a light sponge in there, and that sponge is probably totally dry, and that sponge retains the oil and lubricates the motor over time. I didn't even see if there was a lubrication hole up at the top. This may be the lubrication hole right here for the top bearing. But we're going to take the motor apart because I think you need to see how that works anyway. So we'll just loosen those slightly. Now we can use a screwdriver to separate the top and bottom bearing, right? No? Alright, another nut to come off, I guess. Now it moves. Okay, here we go. Screw number one. Screw number two. Bolt. Let's go with bolt. Okay, here's our bottom bearing cap. Comes off like that. There's your brass or bronze bearing. This one is totally dry, no oil left. You should be able to pull the rotor right out. Okay, and there's our top bearing. I'm going to clean this with a little bit of alcohol because there's some staining on it. clean the bottom one too. There's just a little bit of staining around here, so we're just going to clean that off. Clean down here too. And here's our bottom bearing of the spindle. Just clean that off. Remove any old grease and oil. Just a little bit of guck on there, not too bad. Okay, so now we basically have no oil on this. What we'll do is we're going to fill this with some electric motor oil. Okay, 3-in-1 oil for this. Okay, so just drop a few 100 drops in there around the bearing. Just want to fill it. Okay. I'm going to drop our rotor back in. Okay, actually, you know what? I'm just going to put 1 drop here on the shaft. And just another little drop here on the top bearing. And then we'll put a little bit of oil into this spongy cloth material here that retains the oil. Okay. And now we can grab our screws or bolts, whatever you want to call them. Put them back on. Okay. Washer. Nut. Washer. Nut. I think we can screw them down now. It's very strange. Usually I'm able to screw it from the bottom here, but there's a little ridge here, something that's keeping the screwdriver from actually making contact. So we'll just we'll tighten them from the top. You don't have to be crazy tight, just snug them up. The lock washer will do the work. Okay. There we go. Lubricated motor. Alright, so does anybody remember how the hell this thing goes back on? There we go. Oh yeah, this was very annoying. You know what? I think I'm going to soak that that sponge before I actually put this back on, because I don't have good access with this plate on there. So we're going to grab our oil and we're going to, oh yeah, it's just absorbing it. Look at that, that's amazing. That should be more than enough. Put this back on. Very tight spot here, really hard to get my fingers in there. This one especially bad. Good heavens, does not want to screw in. Yeah, sometimes I just grab a screwdriver and just work it around. Tight, very tight. Too lazy to go outside and grab my nut driver set. It's in my garage. I put this frickin' thing on backwards. I'm gonna be so pissed off if I did. I think I did. Of course I did. All right, why don't we just pause here while I correct this ridiculous situation. Okay, I went outside and I grabbed my nut driver. So, and I did have this thing on backwards, even though I had put it over here as how I wanted it to go back on. What are you gonna do? I was just looking. This is definitely the oil drop hole. There's a little tube here, and it directs it onto that little indentation there, which will then dribble the oil from there into that sponge. Pretty ingenious. There we go. Now we can put our motor, fasten it back up to the plinth. Okay, that's that. So I think what we'll do is let's service the main bearing anyway. I really don't know how old the oil is in there. There is a screw on the side here, of course, holding it in. So you loosen the screw, the spindle should probably fall out and hit the top of the dust cover. No, it didn't. We just reach in and grab it. Here it is. Oh, this one's got a ball bearing. And it has grease on it. Okay, so this one's going to need cleaning. We never, ever, ever lose the ball bearing. That would be bad. So just put it somewhere. We're going to, because it has grease, I'm going to replace it with a thicker oil. See, that's the grease. That's definitely factory. Must be good quality though. I mean, 1975, and it has not thickened. Maybe it was synthetic back in the day. I'm just going to clean that. There's our little ball bearing, so don't lose that. Just put it aside. We're going to clean out the bearing well with a Q-tip and some alcohol. this service should also work on turntables like the PL 112 or 115. They're very similar in design to this, except I believe they're suspended tables. I'm just going to put our ball bearing right there. I'm going to clean this spindle with some alcohol as well. Nice. Okay, so we're going to grab our 30 weight non-detergent oil. We're going to put 2 or 3 drops down the bearing. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then grab your ball bearing, if you can. Okay, grab it and drop it in. And now a little bit of oil on the spindle. Okay, and we're going to drop that in. Okay, and that there's going to be a little bit of hydraulic pressure. That little hole where the screw goes in, that's actually kind of handy because it actually helps to relieve the pressure. Okay, and I don't think that's going to come out. It won't. We can turn it back over and put our retaining screw back on. Very small screw. Yep, the hydraulic pressure is holding the spindle bearing in place. And now we can just screw this back in and it won't go anywhere. Okay. Check the bearing. Very nice. Very smooth. Floating on a film of oil. Okay. Alright, so now we're just going to replace that little piece of foam that I removed. So right here on the arm return lever, we're going to clean that off with a little bit of alcohol to remove any of that foam residue. There's glue on here too. Okay. Just grab our razor blade and just get a little bit of a scrape. Okay, that's great. Alright, now we just have to cut a little piece of foam to fit there. I'm just going to dry it off. Okay, so I'm just going to use a little bit of I don't know what this is, to be honest with you. It's a foam, but it's definitely different than what was on there. It's slightly more dense, and we're just going to cut it to size, which is about let's say that thick. Just cut a piece, say that thickness. It's a little long. Shorten it down a little bit. Okay, that'll work. Okay, so now it's sitting right there. So all we're going to do is grab a little bit of crazy glue. Drop a little bit of crazy glue on this sucker here. And put it back. Just hold it for a second. Shouldn't take long to dry. And that's it, my friends. That's how you replace your auto return sponge, foam, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to say that this one is done underneath. So now we're going to address the speed issues up top. I'll just put the bottom on for now. I'll screw it in after the video's done. Take that off. Alright. So next, we're going to work on this, on the belt pulley here. Okay? Because it is a mess. Okay, that works. We'll start off with some alcohol to remove the old belt residue. Now here you go. Lubrication hole. Do not... What the hell does that say? Lubrication hole. Oil, right here. Not more than 2 or 3 drops. Well, we put definitely more than 2 or 3 drops because it probably hasn't had any drops since 1975, so it's not going to hurt it. Okay, when we plug it in here, see how the motor spun up right away? Definitely had a bad microswitch there. Let's just shut this off. Come on, you bugger. There we go. So definitely had an issue. Alright, so we're going to clean this as best as we can. Get off as much belt residue as possible with the motor spinning. And then I'll show you a trick if we can't get the speed right. Now this trick only works if your speed is slow, okay? What we're going to try to do, if our speed is slow, is to increase the size of our pulley here. Now when I mean, look at that, that's all belt residue. When I mean by increase it, I mean like by a micron. Okay, the belt stuff is melting off nicely, the belt residue. We need this very clean because we're going to apply some nail polish. Is that what it's called? Nail polish? Yeah, nail polish. Women's nail polish or men's nail polish, whatever. I cannot believe how gross that motor spindle is. We're going to have to do it a little bit more because it's not quite clean yet. The motor is very strong. That's one thing about an AC motor. They are super strong. Wow, that's dirty. Getting better though. The cotton acts as a little bit of a abrasive. Here's another trick. Grab a very thin piece of, this is 1500 I believe, and just dunk it in alcohol like that, and just hold it up against the pulley, and it'll actually sand it down and polish it, and it'll remove the rest of the belt residue. And now we want to dry it. Just a little bit more alcohol just to clean it. That looks really clean. Okay. Stop the motor again. Yeah, it looks great. Okay. So we're going to grab our spindle. This is filthy as well. If you look at where the belt rides here, hang on, can you see that? There we go. It's very dirty. So we're just going to clean that with a little bit of paper towel and alcohol. If it still doesn't come clean, you can use a 3M Scotch-Brite pad and any kind of cleaner, even glass cleaner, and it'll take off the majority of this gunk. That's when the belt has like died on the platter and there's a ton of residue there. This one's not too bad. It's smooth, it just it's stained. See what I mean? The belt itself is brand new, supposedly. So grab your belt, wrap it around. Okay. Hold the one side here with your finger, like that. Okay, or your thumb. Spindle over the motor pulley. Okay. And let's put our head shell back on. All right, and let's see what kind of speed we're getting. Okay, speed looks good now. It's just a smidge fast. Okay. Oh, keep forgetting you have to hit stop on this machine. Okay, I'm just going to grab something. I'm just going to pause. I'll be right back. Okay, so there's my lovely Samsung Galaxy S3 from 2012, which I still use. Loaded up is just an RPM app for turntables or anything else that you want to know how fast it's spinning, I guess. And so when this turntable came in today, it was spinning slow. So now we're going to see how it's doing. See, it's just a smidge fast. It's at 34. And let's see 45. It's at 46. That's not bad. You're probably going to hate things more if it's slow. It makes the music sound sluggish. If it's just a smidge fast, you probably won't notice it too much. As long as the vocals don't change too much, that's where you'll notice it the most. You know, if you're listening to whoever and you notice they start to sound like a chipmunk, then you know that you're going a little fast. But most people probably can't hear 34 RPM. So this turntable is done. Great, shutting off. I do want to check the auto return on it, see how our new piece of foam is working. So we start it. Okay, it did auto return. Sorry, my battery died there. I know I keep saying this every video, but this camera I'm using right now is not very good. Promise, new one's coming. So, I think this one's done. Can't really complain about how this went. The table is very nice quality. They sound really good. I will set up the arm and set the anti-skating and all that kind of stuff. Does this have anti-skating? I don't think it does. Nope, this one does not have anti-skating. So we won't be setting up the anti-skating. But we'll set up the tracking force and send it on its way. That was a great service. The slow speed was rectified. I'm pretty sure it wasn't the spindle bearing because it was fairly well lubricated when we pulled it apart. My guess is that the motor had absolutely no lubrication left, and it was starting to get sticky, and there was a lot of friction, and that was slowing down the table. But now you saw how we serviced that. We ripped it apart and lubricated top and bottom bearings, and now it's running great. So that's another one in the books here, Pioneer ES-2000. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks.